Good morning, Mr. Noche. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Chair.
Morning, Chair.
Yes, thank you.
Chair, today's hearings are in respect of the evidence of Mr. Desmond Nair and Mr. Lindam T. Chair, we are having discussions with representatives of both witnesses. Can we ask for time just to discuss with them and then approach you in chambers, and then we can then, if we reach an agreement, and then perhaps put the agreements on record?
Let's have counsel for Mr. Nair as well as Mr. MT place themselves on record. You can just do it from where you are. You switch on the mic, yes.
Good morning, Chair. Donnie Dorfling is the name. I represent Mr. Nair on instruction of Mr. Ulrich Ruth and Associates.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I will grant you an opportunity to have discussions with the legal representatives of both Mr. Nair and Mr. MT, and then I can be approached in chambers as to the way forward. Maybe we may be looking at about 30 minutes.
30 minutes, I think, will be
About
sufficient.
30 minutes. Okay, we will adjourn then, and then you will let me know once you are ready.
Thank you, Chair.
We adjourn. Yes, Mr. Noshe, have you had a chance to discuss with your colleagues
Yes. representing
Mr. MT and Mr. Nair?
Yes, Chair, we have discussed and we have reached agreements. Insofar as Mr. MT's matter is concerned, we will provide Mr. MT with all the evidence, that implicates him. That will be in the form of the link to the website of the Commission where the evidence is housed. And also, although the notices in terms of Regulation 3.3 have been sent, we'll again give them the statements that were attached to those notices. This will be done before the end of business on Friday, the 24th. And then 2 weeks thereafter, Mr. MT will then...
I'm sorry, I think you're starting the matter. You're not starting where it should start. As I understand, Mr. MT is not here today. There's a reason for that.
Yes. Mr. MT is not here today, and Mr. Van der Merwe is here representing Mr. MT.
Yes, maybe then we should start with Mr. Van der Merwe just saying something about that, and then he can also talk about what has been agreed, and you can confirm. Mr. Van der Merwe, you can speak from where you are if you just switch it on, the mic on, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I confirm my appearance on behalf of Mr. Mati.
Yes, if you are comfortable to remove your mask just for purpose of speaking, feel free to do so.
Indeed, thank you, Mr. Chair. I confirm that my office has received a notice of set-down 6 working days prior to today's date. I have informed Mr. Mati, but unfortunately the notice was short. Being an officer of the court, I thought it prudent to be present and not simply ignore the notice. And we have reached certain agreements relating to the provision of evidential material and the response thereto, in as far as it may be necessary from Mr. Mati.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like Mr. MT's lawyers received the notice late.
Yes.
You don't know what brought that about, do you?
No, Chair, I do not know. But, Chair, what is also is important to note is that up to now, we hadn't received the response to the 10-6 notice that Mr. MT had been given. That is, he hasn't provided an affidavit yet. But despite that, a notice of set-down had been served on him. I think it's on the 10th of July. And I don't know why it was served late.
Well, as I understand from the discussion in chambers, the position is that the notice notifying Mr. MT that today is supposed to appear before the commission was received recently, and Mr. Van der Merwe says about 10-6 or 6 working days ago. There's probably about 10 normal days. It should have been sent off much earlier. So that's one. Two, so Mr. MT is not here, so we can't proceed with regard to his evidence because he's not here. But as I understand the position, the legal representatives from the side of the commission and Mr. MT have reached an agreement in terms of which, even if Mr. MT may have received previous statements, a full set of the statements of witnesses who implicate him and the evidence will be identified to his lawyers, and they can then reach that, access that on the website of the commission.
Yes.
So they will be notified of all the names of the witnesses who implicate him within a few days.
Yes, we have given an undertaking that will happen before Friday, the 24th.
And Mr. MT has through his lawyers, undertaken to furnish an affidavit in regard to the evidence that has been led against him, even though he may reserve his rights in regard to disclosing his defense in regard to the criminal matter. Is that so?
That is so, Chair. That will happen within 14 days after receipt of our notice.
Of your notification.
Of our notification, yes.
Yes. Mr. van der Merwe, you confirm that that's the arrangement?
Mr. Chair, I confirm the arrangement. I specifically confirm
Yes.
that Mr. Mathi's right not to disclose his defense will be protected in his affidavit.
Yes, okay.
And in fact may not deal with the facts specifically, safe to make statement that it may lead to an unfair criminal trial which is currently being run in Pretoria.
Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you. So that will be the arrangement in regard to Mr. Mthi.
Yes.
Then, and once he has filed his affidavit, then a decision will be taken whether it's necessary to fix another date for him to appear.
Yes.
Okay. In regard to Mr. Nair?
In regard to Mr. Nair, Chair, there is an application by Mr. Nair to cross-examine Mr. Richard Leroux. And then there are two outstanding affidavits. Statements for now, they have to be affidavits that have to be commissioned and be made available to Mr. Nair. We have a problem with one deponent. He has the virus, he's tested positive for the virus, but we're hoping that within 7 days from now, he should be available to have the statement commissioned. The arrangement we have reached is that we are unable to proceed today because, in fairness, Mr. Nair should see those statements so that when he testifies after he has sent the statements. So the arrangement is that by next week, the 31st of July, the statements will be served on them, and then they will then decide whether they want to respond to those statements. And if they do, they will do so within 14 days of the statements. And then they will then consider their position, and then depending on your ruling regarding the issue of cross-examination of Leroux, and they may also, after they have seen the statements, apply to cross-examine the other two potential witnesses as well.
Counsel for Mr. Nair, are you able to confirm the arrangement?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, perhaps I could just, at the outset, just place certain facts on record.
I'm sorry. If you don't mind, if you move the mask a bit, I think I'll hear better, but if there is a problem, you can just raise your voice.
I would try and just raise my voice if
Yes.
that's suitable. Could you
Yes.
hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you. Chair, could I just raise one or two matters that concerns us and that creates some discomfort on the side of Mr. Nair? We did receive the notice for today's hearing on the 10th of July in the same way as Mr. Mthi. Mr. Nair is here, we're ready, we're prepared. Mr. Nair was happy to give his evidence. We were this morning informed that two further statements might be forthcoming, that of Mr. Beju and that of Mr. van der Merwe. We were also subsequently informed that there is a potential further and third statement from Mr. Leroux that might be forthcoming. Mr. Leroux deposed to a first statement on the 28th of January 2019. He gave evidence on the 31st of January 2019. We did not receive a Rule 33 notice forewarning Mr. Nair of that and alerting him to the rights that he have in terms of Rule 3 of the Commission, which caused some prejudice. It's water under the bridge. We need to deal with what we have, and we are more than willing to cooperate with the Commission. The discomfort we have, Chair, is the fact that we're being confronted as we go along with new and further facts that needs to be dealt with. It is not a fair process for a implicated person to be confronted with evidence, preparing himself to respond, and then be confronted with further evidence. We want to do, and we propose that it be done in one go, that everything gets presented to Mr. Nair, that he deals with it sensibly, consider it all, and make his election on the way forward. So I would urge, Mr. Chair, to appeal to my learned friend, Mr. Noche, leading the evidence, to ensure that we have the body of evidence that they want to present, as agreed by next week, Friday. That would be Mr. Berju, Mr. Van der Merwe, and if potentially the evidence of Mr. Leroux, a further affidavit of him. We are happy to commit to then making our election and responding to that within 14 days. Next week, Friday, would be the 31st of July. We would then make our election and respond appropriately by the 14th of August. There may be an application or further applications to cross-examine the further witnesses. There is pending before you, Mr. Chair, an application to cross-examine Mr. Leroux, which will be entertained after Mr. Leroux's input has been obtained and secured and been placed in your possession. The same would then apply to the other further witnesses if there were such applications to cross-examine them. In the circumstances, we are therefore happy to agree to the terms on those conditions of moving forward, and we believe that once all of that is done, the Commission would be ready to then look at allocating a specific date to deal with all of these issues. And ideally, we want to appeal to the leader of evidence and to the Commission for us to try and resolve this on a singular day when we can come and deal with it and bring the matter to finality. As it pleases.
Chair, can I just,
Thank you.
can I just deal with just one issue? It's not in response, it's just on record. Mr. Beju hasn't tested positive for COVID, but he is self-quarantined. And he has given, I've just been shown a note from him saying that he expects to be out of it by end of this week. So I gave incorrect information to say he has tested positive. He's just self-quarantined.
Okay, all right. So we're not going to proceed with the evidence of Mr. Nair then today on the basis that another date will be arranged once all the affidavits that are still to be exchanged between the Commission's legal team and Mr. Nair's legal team have been exchanged. And obviously I will get to know once that point has been reached. And then I will also, at that point, deal with the application for leave to cross-examine or applications for leave to cross-examine if another one will be forthcoming. And then after that, a date will then be arranged. And the aim will be to have all of these matters, all of the issues dealt with on the same day and finalized. So no, thank you very much. I think I would just say I appreciate that there's been a lot of cooperation between the Commission's legal team and both teams, one representing Mr. MT and one representing Mr. Nair this morning for the agreement to be reached. So we will adjourn then on that basis. As for tomorrow, Mr. Noche, what is the position with regard to Mr. Gillingham? Have they indicated what their position is?
Still, the position is that the notice of set down was sent to Mr. Gillingham. He is not legal representative at this stage. It was sent to him to an email that had been used to communicate with him. There's no response from the email. They tried to communicate with him by cell phone. There's no response. An SMS was sent to the cell phone. But both the cell phone and the emails are the emails he had been using, and the cell phone he has been using, but there's no response so far. So we're not certain what the position is. But the matter is set down for tomorrow for him, and we're not certain whether he what the position is. But his bundles are ready, and we will also indicate electronically through the email where he can access the bundles, so that if he comes, he has got the bundles available.
Yeah.
But we're not certain what the position is.
Yes.
But as we stand, the date of the hearing has not changed, it's for tomorrow.
Yes, okay, all right. The hearing of the evidence of Mr. Nair and the evidence of Mr. MT is adjourned sine die, and other dates will be arranged. We adjourn.
Thank you, Chair.